Yeah. Yeah. Coming to you every week from Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure. The Jono and Dorje podcast. Jono and Dorje. Full disclosure in the raw. Raw. Jono and Dorje. Full disclosure. No holds barred. No holds barred.
Okay, welcome to episode 10 of Full Disclosure, coming to you about fortnightly at this stage across the nation and the world. Some big hits in France and the US of late, so we're going global, and even Great Britain's got on board, so it's pretty exciting.
Bonjour to all our French listeners. That's great stuff.
Pretty sure it's just my sister, actually, but yeah, thanks Marley. Thanks, Marley.
Hey, Marley. Yeah,
for getting on board. Our sisters have been behind us from day one, and we're very fortunate to have them on board.
We sure are. Our two female audience members, but we'd love the girls to listen. How the hell are you, Big Cat?
Very good indeed, my friend.
Yeah.
It's been a busy week, a big going away party for a friend of ours.
Oh, yeah.
I think we've referred to him once as Drug Pig Woodman. Is off.
You don't have to say his surname. Is that that's why you cancelled yesterday?
That's right. He's off for a year and a half. Him and the lovely Sarah Murphy, and I sent them off in style.
What time did you pull up stumps?
Look, I think it was about 4 or 5 a.m. somewhere around there. It wasn't a small evening, and I paid for it big time. Let's just say once you get to the late 30s. Those hangovers are horrendous. So
they can be horrendous.
Not to do it. I'm over drinking. Full stop. There's a full disclosure for you.
It's a pretty boring one. I had I didn't have a huge weekend, but unfortunately I've got some sort of stomach bug, so I had to take the day off work today.
Oh, a stomach bug.
Yeah. So if my energy levels, please just prop me up, because just feeling a little bit queasy.
What have you taken for it, mate? You taken
nothing? No, nothing. I've just been sleeping. Watched the basketball today. Obviously, tomorrow our bet comes down to Game 7 as
Big
well,
bet.
which is exciting.
I hope you're hope you're following it with us, everyone, because there's a lot of money changing hands here.
Yeah.
Well, did we agree on a fee? I don't think we agreed on a fee, did we?
Like $3 or something.
Hold the phone. Wait one second. Is Chris Paul back for Game 7?
Don't know. I'll have to Google that. But how did the Snow Leopards go yesterday? You were in a big game yesterday, even though you were hungover. Yep. Not very professional of you. How'd you guys go?
Top of the table clash, and we won. So it was. We were against basically all of China. It's a team. It's a team of about 30 dudes, and they have their roster. They switch around the roster.
Ah.
Yeah, and they had a coach with a clipboard and everything, but it didn't matter what they did. We came up with our little six dudes. We came up with a big victory, so that was really great for the soul.
Well, did they have 12 players?
Yeah, they played with 12 in the end, and look, they were decent, but they weren't great. But it was just.
And does that mean you're at the top of the table now?
Top of the table, yeah. I mean, it was I played decent this week, but the week before I was really happy. I had 15 rebounds the week before, so I was big on the boards. So
well, maybe you shouldn't have poisoned yourself with alcohol the night before. Maybe you should take it seriously as an honorary snow leopard.
That's right. That's exactly right. But basketball. It's great to have that sporting component in our lives. Are you playing any sport at the moment, Jono? Or are you just sort of,
I play basketball every weekend, but it's street ball. I play with
pickup games. You play pickup games.
McClash, Old School, the Grizz. They're all out there. It's super fun. McClash hit me in the head last week, and I think I suffered a mild concussion. He was complaining about having a bruise on his forearm. I was like, mate, he clocked me. He clocked me good.
He gave you a big one. Well, which, speaking of being clocked good, it probably leads us into a segue into what our episode is about.
Yes.
Our episode today is called the Socialism episode. We're looking at a perfect society.
Can't you think of a better Das Kapital or something like that? The Socialism episode.
The Socialism episode. It's about social activity between people and, parties and basically, if there's been any premise we've explored more than anything else, it's been music festivals and drugs, essentially. But we're trying to go a bit more highbrow. We're trying to raise the bar a little bit. No, it's not about social activity. It's about a utopian society where everyone gets a fair go. And would that be an accurate summation in your mind? Obviously, it's much more complex than that. But
well, I don't have the definition of socialism up in front of me. But no, I mean, it's Take Down Capitalism episode maybe. It all spurred from, because it's a Melbourne-Sydney podcast, and I had a wonderful Melbourne week where I got to experience a lot of the kind of culture involved in Melbourne. And so Monday night, we'll be reviewing Death of Stalin. I saw that at Cheap Monday at the Nova. And then the next night went with our mate Chris Honorary and Steph to both our mates to a book review, an opening of a book. What do you call it? A launch. That's the one.
A book launch. At
basically communist headquarters, lefty headquarters, the Trades Hall, which is just a stone throw from where I live on Lygon Street. It's on Lygon Street, and it's the kind of trade union capital. And it was terrific. The book was called Capitalism, a Crime Story. And the little punchy writer, I reckon he was in his 70s, Harry Glasbeek, is this just legend. I think Al Pacino would play him in the biopic. He's a Jewish Belgium guy that escaped Nazi Germany, moved to Melbourne in his teens, and like a lot of my relatives who escaped Hitler's Europe, hasn't lost his accent at all. He's just got a classic accent, and he's been living in Canada now for the last 30 years as a lecturer there. And Dorje, you would have loved it. He gave a snappy, probably hour and 20-minute address to a raptured, probably 90 true believers sitting there. We were definitely the youngest there, and he's at the top of his craft as far as a lecturer. And basically, he laid out his argument.
Give us a dose. Don't tell. Show.
A mugger to a stranger. Give me your wallet, or I will beat you around the head. This is a crime. An employer says to a worker, adding lung-saving... Hang on. Adding... Oh, shit.
That sounds fantastic. It really does.
Yeah. Adding lung-saving ventilation will reduce my profit. Give me back some of your wages and I will let you keep your lungs. And you would have loved him as an actor because he used all the kind of tricks. He was whispering. He was yelling probably more than anything. He did a lot of yelling, a lot of three-part punches. He did things like, read my lips. He said that a few times. Talked about, he had a wry smile, but a lot of anger. Say again?
Do you have a cane?
Didn't have a cane.
Do you have a monocle?
No. Not so many physical tricks.
Didn't use the tricks then. Monocle and cane, mate. There you go, too.
He used the tricks of the voice, which you obviously know about as well. Told a joke.
Okay.
He said, a banker, a worker, and a refugee are sitting at a table with 100 cookies. The banker takes 99 and says to the worker, make sure that the refugee doesn't get your cookie. Just great stuff. And
wait,
big laughs.
That was the punchline?
Well, greedy bankers. He was really basically what he laid out.
Just smashing anyone to do with capitalism, anyone making money, basically. Just pure rabble rousing, just catering to his crowd completely, huh? Smash all of the wealthy people and everyone eats for free at my restaurant.
Unfortunately, it was all true believers there, because if he'd gone to the MCG where I was later on in the week, yeah, he would have fucking... Because he basically just laid out, he said basically, a crime is coercion. You cannot hit someone with your car or hit someone with your walking stick, but capitalism is coercive. So he really went very quick into that, and he really bigged us up as this worker. He was saying the worker, we give up our imagination, our strength, our intellect, and we get paid this tiny amount of money. So it was real rabble rousing. It was terrific stuff. I liked it a lot. So that's my Capitalism, a Crime Story.
Do you reckon your old man
Harry
would have liked it?
Well, I think, yeah, absolutely. As an entertainer, this guy, like, you don't have. The problem was he didn't lay out an alternative, which is the tough tough one. He didn't.
Do you think your father was a socialist?
No, absolutely not. But I think socialist leanings, no. I mean, I just think our current system has lots of socialism in it. It has to.
Yes.
But yeah, it was, and then unfortunately, it was like an auction. Like about 4 people asked long-winded questions with very hard to find a question, and they all just wanted to have their word as well. But it was pretty entertaining.
I hate those people. You know, the ones that when it's question time, trying to try and show off some intellect at the same point in time, making it incredibly long-winded and confusing to the point where everyone's just lost any momentum of the entire evening. It's frustrating to say. It's almost like they want their time on the mic. They're resentful of the fact they've come to see this person speak, and now they want their turn to shine. But look, he sounds great, but he's obviously playing to a real home crowd. I mean, I'd love to see him do that at a Young Liberals meeting or something like that. Now that would be that. Now that'd be. It's like when I saw Dawkins once debate a priest, and that was fantastic. I prefer it when you've got representatives from both parties or both sides there. When I say both, that's just two.
Well, usually at book launch, you don't talk for ages yourself. You read a bit of your book, and somebody else talks about you. But Harry Glasbeek he's a gun, absolute gun.
Great. Which speaking of guns, so did you have you bought the book? Do you own the book now? Or did you get a signing?
I didn't buy the book. No, I didn't do any of that. No,
you didn't.
I'm not reading much at the moment. I'm
As
taking
a writer,
a bit of time off.
We only make a very small amount of money, and what's important is we support each other and support us against the capitalist pigs. And then you just walk out straight on. Yeah. Thanks for the speech, mate.
Thanks. Good speech. Well, no, I more liked his delivery than his content. I thought it was a bit wholly, his, as in like Swiss cheesy, his actual links between coercion and capitalism.
It's purely his oratory abilities that you can't be really appreciating. The actual content you thought was pretty average from the sounds of it.
Well, no, now that I've thought about it, it does. It just, what's the logical end of capitalism? It's just going to be one person. Jeff Bezos is going to have all the money. Like it is bullshit. It's fucked. We need more socialism.
You don't believe socialism. You don't believe in the trickle down effect, the famous Reagan saying, where if there's more water, all the boats rise.
No, I don't think so. I think that's more that'd more be a global warming reference now, which unfortunately free market does.
There's more water everywhere, and we're all rising together.
Yeah, it's rapacious. It just means that people just want to get away with more and more, and that was I think his best point, was that capitalism, if greed is good, these people will do everything they can to get the most out of the worker, the environment, all those kind of things. Where it's going to get harder and harder to have checks and balances in those things. And so I was thinking about where is an ideal society like, and I thought of I actually went there once, Dorje.
Where what? Oh, you mean a kibbutz?
Oh yeah, I've been to a kibbutz. Yeah, I hung out at kibbutz a bit as a kid, and that was a good example of socialism working. But it was on such a small scale, kibbutzes. Mm-hmm. But
is the plural of kibbutz kibbutzes?
I think it's kibbutzes. Kibbutz-im is like someone that lives at a kibbutznik is someone that lives at a kibbutz.
Oh, right, that's a cool term.
Yeah, kibbutznik. Yeah, it is. Wouldn't be cool if your name was Nick, though.
Goddamn
hey, I'm a kibbutznik. Beatniks, kibbutzniks.
What happens if you played for the New York Knicks and then you became a kibbutznik?
Yeah, like
you'd be a New York Knick kibbutznik.
Who's the guy that I really like? The tall guy that went from Phoenix who wears the goggles?
Amari Stoudemire. Amari
Stoudemire. No, Dorje, what I was...
Because, yes, you've been to this utopian society. Where was it?
Well, when you and I were living together in 2012, 2013, we both bought tickets, bought airfare to America so we could go to Burning Man together. And then, as often happens to an actor that makes plans, you got a plum role in one of the great Australian TV shows of all time, playing a guy... What was your name? Did you get a proper name?
The Barista.
The Barista, which I think is actually more showy. Like it's quite good, and you got recognised a lot on the back of that. But unfortunately, you couldn't come to Burning Man with me. So I was, as you were very disappointed.
You could say I went to my own Wonderland while you went to your Wonderland.
That's right. You had a good time on Wonderland, and you did some great work. I did. it was in hindsight maybe a bit racist. All these white people being mean to the only ethnic person in the show.
It was interesting because when the original episode came out, some people came out and said, there was real whitewashing in Australian TV yet again. And I was like, well, wait a second, there's me. But then, yeah, you're right. I mean, no, wait, there was a Brazilian guy in it as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't the only one, but
you were basically playing a bad guy.
I was a bad guy. Yeah. I was
a bad weak guy. It was a good performance because you played him really kind of like bad, but then also like a bit sad and creepy.
I was a bit sooky and creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you were being creepy in your own way at Burning Man.
I wasn't being creepy. I was being very respectful. I was at Burning Man though, and it was absolutely terrific. And the reason I wanted to talk about Burning Man is because in the news, Larry Harvey died this month, and he was the creator of Burning Man, and he died at the age of 70, which is quite a auspicious number since last Burning Man was recorded having 70,000 people at Burning Man.
Jeez.
And it's incredible. So it started from, I think it was about 20 of his mates back in the day, and they moved to the Nevada desert, and it becomes the third biggest city in Nevada for that 10 days or whatever
Nevada?
It goes.
Maybe Nevada.
Nevada.
It's Nevada. Also, last week you said reduction instead of retraction.
Redaction.
It's retraction.
Kate Fisher needs a reduction.
You banned those, mate. And you made it look like it was me. That's a problem with that stuff, and it's not. It's you. Everyone knows it's you, mate. So stop trying to stitch me up for your own problems.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I've spent about 3 podcasts deliberately trying not to stitch you up, mate. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop
saying
that.
Saying I have to watch myself when you specifically the king of obesity gags is out of order.
Well, I just think it's a bit unfair that you can't make fun of anything. Like, it's not...
But it's not me.
Don't make fun of someone that's fat.
You're making it. I'm not the one that can't make fun. It's you. You're the one that's being hindered. I'm the one you're paying.
Hindenburged.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, you went to Burning Man. Get on with it. What happened there?
It's terrific there. It was just terrific. It was, it has the 10 rules of Burning Man that he laid down. Just really speak to me. I think I do have this socialist hippie leanings, and that's why, I mean, apart from, obviously, dance parties are awesome and fun anyway, but I don't like the music, so I'm there for something else. They've got radical inclusion is the first one. Gifting, obviously, that's where you can't use any...
just move on from something like radical inclusion. I mean, what the hell does that mean?
Well, that's basically my whole life, is that, like, I want to be included. I guess that's both why we had these sad childhoods, and that's why we went into acting, that we want to be included by everyone. We want a connection and a community. Am I wrong to include you in that, radically?
I don't know about sad childhood. It seems a bit extreme, but I mean, for you, definitely, that makes sense.
By yourself, looking at the atlas in your room, come on, reading countless books, getting hung by your ankles off cliffs. Sounds pretty sad to me, mate. So so radical inclusion means that you can't be. There's no VIP tent in theory. Obviously, all this has been eroded.
Where would I go then? See, I'm lucky. Glad I didn't go. It's the only area I hang out at festivals. I actually don't leave. I don't leave the VIP area at any festival. When I do go out into the non-VIP areas at festivals now, I just feel like there's just dirt all around me and pubescent children that stink, that are rolling over in their own fecal matter. It's horrendous.
You are a fixture in the VIP, like Matthew Richardson.
Does that mean my attitude doesn't fit with Burning Man?
Probably, yeah. Well, it does. You're a very inclusive person, but that's a beautiful thing about it. And the year I was there was this amazing party. I think it was called Robot Land or something like that, and it was a huge, basically like
amazing party. Boat. Shitty title, Robot Land. Hey, I went to this amazing party. You never guess what it's called, Robot Land. And wow, that sounds amazing. Did you all dance like robots?
Okay, right. It fits like thousands of people on it. It seemed to. I was off my head most of the time, and it's often the playa, like far away, and you've got to ride your bikes and you just jump on it. But apparently, a few people were being refused entry to that, which was quite the talk of Burning Man, because that's not fitting in with the radical inclusion.
The radical inclusion.
Gifting,
so, gifting, yes, yep. Gifting.
That means you have to bring a gift, and this was a famous kind of problem I had with one of your best mates, because it was meant to be you, me, and this legendary guy called Bryn Diesel. We'll call him Bryn Diesel.
Bryn Diesel, whose birthday it is today. Happy 39th birthday, Bryn Diesel.
Happy birthday, Bryn.
Yep.
Legend.
Yep.
But
good timing.
I was making a lot of mix CDs at the time, as you remember. Prof J-Dog, that was a real obsession. Like my DVD obsession now. Like I like getting into something that's just about to die in the arse as far as technologically. So I made hundreds and hundreds of Australian mix CDs, and I was going to give them out. And people gift, marijuana, they gift cookies, they gift dog tags, like all sorts of things.
Just fart on each other. There's your gift, mate. Hope you like that.
Like a cupcake. Is that? They're disgusting. I remember Melbourne Uni, when I was at Melbourne Uni, there was fucking dickheads that would cupcakes. They'd put their hand next to their ass, catch a fart, and put it on your face. Have a cupcake. Fuck, that toxic masculinity there. So
literally toxic. Hey, you want some toxic masculinity? Here's some.
So I had all those there, but because I was traveling longer, Bryn was going to bring them over and we're going to share them as a gift, and he didn't actually bring them in. And I think he and I both told you what a sourpuss I was when I found out that.
Would it be cool to? Wouldn't it be funny to like have little like wrapped up presents and give them out and then open them and like it's just like 400 bits of lumps of coal? I'd quite enjoy doing something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like
that'd be worth quite a lot probably now.
Oh, it's a good point actually. And also, it's coal would be the worst thing ever. It'd be so unenvironmental that everyone would hate you at Burning Man for that. Wouldn't it? It'd be doubly bad.
You could use it to get into one of your favourite costumes, dress up.
Moving right along.
Radical inclusion. Radical inclusion.
So you didn't have the CDs, and you're very upset about the CDs. In fact,
I was upset.
Because that was your primary offering, your gift offering. So what did you guys do to combat that situation?
Nothing.
How'd you get around that?
Yeah, we were just povos. Well, I think if it's your first Burning Man,
gifts?
No, not really. No. And people just gifted us stuff the whole time. Yeah, it's fine. That's the thing. It's such a rich economy there that everyone is in such a great spirits that you don't need. And you're meant to bring radical self-reliance is another thing. So you are meant to bring everything you need to survive. But
yes.
Lots of people don't because people are giving you. It's in the desert. People are giving you ice cream. They're giving you milkshakes. It's pretty amazing. Demodification was another one.
They're not allowed. Give me a year on this.
It was 2013.
So this is and when did Burning Man start? What year?
Ooh, well, he's 70. I reckon it went for there's been about 40 of them.
Yeah, right. So you were pretty late in the day, weren't you?
Always. But my point is that I reckon people have been bagging it out for 25 years as having... It's one of those things that was so good and is so good that people are saying that it's lost its cool and obviously there is going to be corrosions into it, like that all those rules are being broken to a degree. Like there are people that pay for all their camp to be put up for them, so they're not having radical self-reliance.
The tech guys are the ones that are famous for fucking it, really. They're the guys they're flying on their private jets and having private parties.
Well, lots of people are doing that. I think the tech guys got behind it a lot. He was a big fan of the tech guys because he thinks that Burning Man and the internet have a lot in common. Larry Harvey said that because they're both a place that people can connect on that are a bit off-grid.
But
they can't. That's why.
That was until there was that negative stuff about those guys that had their private 5-star locations where people would volunteer and they would get told to leave and people weren't allowed in. There was security all over them and it just kind of really killed the vibe completely.
Killed the vibe. But I think with 70,000 people, most of them are not killing the vibe, so it's still awesome.
Yeah. 86 was the first one, actually, funnily enough.
86. Okay.
And it was free. Admission was free.
Well...
Was it 1991? It went up to $15. So yeah, it's still pretty. Mm-hmm. And then we stayed at about 35 to 96, 65 and 97, and then by the time we got to 2011, it's up to about 210 to 300, and now we're at 425 for a vehicle pass. So it's gone up. It's not ridiculous, really, the amounts it's gone up by.
No, and it costs a lot of money, obviously, to get there. It's a privilege thing to do. That's the thing. Like there's no doubt about it.
And speaking of privilege, or perhaps thinking he was a little bit too privileged, what's your comment on the actual Burning Man of last year? Because you can't not talk about that. The man who actually ran into the burning effigy at the end. Yeah,
it's very sad. But from what I've heard, is there's suicides every year. Like it's a place.
It's just the numbers, I guess.
the numbers, and it's kind of a great place to go out. So I think the year that I was there was a huge car crash on the way out. I think like there was no deaths, and then there was 6 people were killed on the last day.
Yeah.
It's just the numbers game it's like a city. The year before I was there,
yes.
there's a thing called a temple.
Yes.
Which is they burn that as well the night after the Burning Man. It's awesome.
Yes.
And a guy hung himself in the temple, and people didn't even realize for a couple of days because there's so much people are so off their head. Some people are, but also it was it looked like an installation kind of thing.
I don't think we can leave the subject of Burning Man without touching one of its most controversial features, which is, of course, the herpy tent, which is it's well known for the fact there is a group sex tent where everyone that has herpes can have non-protected sex with each other because
I didn't know there was a herpes tent. I knew there was an orgy tent.
No,
I didn't know about a herpes tent.
There's a non-herpes orgy tent, and then there's the herpes orgy tent. And the concern is some people have gone into the herpes tent without realizing it was the herpes tent, and therefore, unfortunately contracted herpes by putting their orifices in the way of herpes-infected pieces. And it was
Is it HPV? Is that the same as herpes?
We're not really sure about that stuff. It's not really our domain. But the point is,
Full disclosure, we're not doctors.
We're also Gen Xers. Apparently, we're really aging ourselves because the Gen Ys know all about it. But anyway, point being, terrible. Talk about mistaken circumstance. Shakespeare's often done it. Mistaken identity comedies. This is far
went to
from
the wrong
funny.
orgy tent. Oh no.
And then, one just has to be careful. I don't think there's signage explaining what's going on. I think one has to look for the marks, I assume, or just see if you can see a couple of sort of. If you can see.
No. There's. I know people that went to the non-herpy tent, and there's a lot of instructions once you get there. You've got to bring a partner.
Yes.
You can't go alone.
Yes.
And you've got to be very loud in your consent.
Oh.
Like you've actually got to say...
I thought you were going to say you have to be very loud in your pleasure. A bit like Asian people when they eat soup, where you have to make noise. You have to be like, oh, this is fantastic. Like they were encouraging. You're doing a great job. You have to that sort of encourage.
No, just at the beginning. Like, do you want to have sex? You say it again. Yes, I want to have sex, yeah.
It could come across quite passive-aggressive. You say, well, they're just have sex like, yes! It might be.
They were just onto that early. They were onto the
So what they're saying is just because you're at the tent, it doesn't mean you want to fuck. But is that what they're saying?
You've got to check all the time. Yeah, it can change any moment.
Oh right. Oh, even during, like you mean in the midst of the action, you have to double check.
Each thrust, you're like, still okay. What about now?
And so one would assume.
Are you enjoying your soup?
One would assume in the herpy tent that's equal, even more so the consent element, wouldn't it? Because
George, once again, you've derailed a whole segment.
What do you
by talking
mean?
about
It's
sex.
one of the most famous elements of the whole festival, the herpy tent.
Once again, I'm working through. So civic communal effort. There's another one that pretty much said itself. So basically, the more
communal effort is that
the more you
yes, go on.
Well, the more you put in, the more you get out.
Certainly in the herpy tent.
Not talking about sex. Not talking about sex, Dorje.
You're not putting in enough.
Talking about a society.
I'm putting in as much as I can.
If you're Google and people are just putting your whole thing up for you, you're not going to get as much out of it as if you do it yourself. Like Vivid Glebe, like the amazing festival we put on.
Yes.
Which you put the most into.
I put a lot into it.
Always got the most out.
I put in and I got out. It's true.
Yeah. Okay. And civic responsibility.
Yes.
Kind of speaks for itself. Leaving no trace, so they're big on that, like on not killing the environment.
It's difficult in the tent with no protective. Very difficult to do when you're not wearing protection. Leave no trace. I'll let you do the math on that one. That's a tricky one.
I don't understand. Participation, perfect for the orgy tent there. So there you go. But basically, it's the opposite of capitalism. It's the opposite of a boss.
Can you just
and the workers?
Can you? I want you to reel off a list, and we'll do it all now, and just think of the herpy tent each time. So go for the first one.
Okay. Radical inclusion.
Tick.
Gifting.
Tick.
Definitely.
Tick.
It's the gift that keeps giving. Demodification. We don't really know what that means anyway.
Next.
Radical self-reliance.
Oh, big time. And self-reliance and
really.
Reliance on others. What about...
herpes has no self-reliance.
What about getting yourself up to attention? If you working some blood into it, so to speak?
No, this is silly. I'm going out of this. We're going to... And then the last one is immediacy. And I'll actually read you this is the hardest one. Yeah, it says immediate experience is, in many ways, the most important touchstone of values in our culture.
Okay.
We seek to overcome barriers that stand between us and the recognition of our inner selves, the reality of those around us, participation in society, and contact with a natural world exceeding human powers. No idea can substitute for this experience.
So what's your take on that?
It's kind of like a bit Buddhist and hippie, that that away from phones and all the distractions of actually what it's all about, which is human connection with each other and with the environment. And so I think that's in that extreme.
And did you find that was what? Did you find that actually matched up with what you were seeing around you?
People were in a great mood. People were having a great time. I think it puts you in a
How many gronks
place.
did you see?
What is gronks? What are gronks?
How many? There's a phenomenon which you see in the Australian music festival scene more and more, where you see like just groups of people that are out to party and get loose. They don't care about the energy. They don't care about who's playing. Here's a typical example. A friend of ours, Mr. Pick, went down to a festival in Melbourne where they're on the dance floor, big music festival, and there was a footy team there who then proceeded to, they were wearing their footy tops, they dominated the dance floor and then sung their football song in the middle of the dance floor, regardless of what everyone else was doing. How much was it just this party dudes, more often than women, dominating the space there to get loose, I guess what you call loose units, who are effectively not fitting in with the vibe of the place?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I've got a story for that. When I went to my Airbnb in LA, before I told her, she was lovely, I told her I was going, and she's like, no way, I've got a mate that's going. She put me in touch with him. He was this like beautiful hippie dude, half Japanese hippie dude, and he said, I've met through the forum these other Aussie guys, and he had that kind of strange American thing where it's like, Jono's Aussie, he'll want to meet these other Aussie guys, and I just went with the flow, and I went to their apartment that they were at, and I was horrified. They were these there's maybe more of them, there were these 6 landscaper dudes from the Gold Coast that were like they were like roided up, muscly. They were DJ landscapers. And yeah, I was a bit snobby. Like I was like, these guys, they're disgusting. Like they were talking to me about like their preparation. They're like, because they go, listen, Jono, we're going to Mexico after this, and then we're going to Vegas as well. So we've been on like a no carb diet for the last 3 months. We've been having no carbs, but now we can blow out, because we figured Burning Man, that shirts off. Then Vegas, obviously shirts off. Mexico, shirts off. And they'd fully like lasered their hair away. They had tats. Very handsome dudes, but very self-obsessed kind of dudes. And I was like, well, I had a few beers with them, and I thought, well, I don't want to see them at Burning Man. But then I bumped into them at Burning Man, and they were lovely. And it was as if by group consensus, you can't get away with being a gronk. It's kind of like the village works together to stop that kind of behavior. And it's not like no one's like grabbing people and saying don't do that, but people aren't littering, people aren't pissing. You can't piss outside of a toilet. They're really staunch on that kind of thing. And so it's constantly, it's kind of like the group decides that people behave well.
No, it's good.
It's awesome.
It's good to see. And, wrapping up on Burning Man, we all know that in America there is a socialist movement, which Bernie Sanders has tapped into. So I don't know how much of the Burning Man phenomenon has entered the American zeitgeist, but there's certainly a real strength to the socialist movement. One only has over the pond, only has to go to Jeremy Corbyn over in the UK, who's been leading the way in that area. Of course, I have 1 degree of separation to Mr. Corbyn. He's back to Mali. My sister Mali in France. Her best friend is Sarah Corbyn, which is his niece and the wonderful friend of mine, and the whole family I'm well au fait with, and very big support.
How old's Corbyn? Corbyn looks quite old.
Jeremy Corbyn is 69 years old, but Bernie Sanders is in his 70s.
It's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, but it's a shame, isn't it, that these kind of people that are trying... Maybe it's because they're from that past gone generation.
I think it's a bit like anything, like popularity is in waves. The specials might be big in ska 20 years before, and then they might have another wave again when they're in their 60s,
I don't think so. I think that's shit music.
They did. The swing music came back shortly for a little while. Those who can forget...
Not for long.
Who can forget swingers when the Cherry Poppin' Daddies and all those guys had a revival you only have to live long enough, as Warren Buffett will tell you, for you to experience these waves that they're coming back in. So I think that probably explains why there's been a resurgence and a reaction to some of the stuff you were talking about the problem with the pointy end of capitalism being that it's a bit of a triangular effect, as opposed to, even though they keep trying to tell us that it's not.
Speaking of gronks, after Burning Man, I went by myself to a hip-hop festival, which had all my favourite performers there. Wu-Tang was there, Big Sean, Chief Keef, Slick Rick, Pusha T, Rakim, Joey Badass. Like, it was just ridiculous lineup, and it was the most unfriendly thing of all time. And I was going from that beautiful energy of like high-fiving people, hugging people. Like, you couldn't get, it was like there was force fields around people. Everyone was in their own little zone, and they'd pay their money. It was just incredibly cash orientated. You got to line up for beers, line up for chips or whatnot, and it was shocking. It was very disappointing to go. It was just a huge difference. Like the capitalist kind of festivals, even like Big Day Out and that sort of thing. Like it's not about communal. It's weird. You're all there together, but you're just in your little group of friends.
Yeah, totally.
It's become quite mean, these festivals. It's like, what the fuck? You may as well just stay at home if you're not going to acknowledge that we're all in it together.
Yeah, agreed. No,
comrade.
I've had to witness it firsthand quite a lot in one of my jobs that you're familiar with. The kids just seem to stay in their own groups. It's a fashion off, generally in some of the more expensive locations around the country, like Byron, for example. And the actual interaction that they're looking to find, it's quite difficult. I've had to act as a conduit for them to encourage them to socialise, because they're that not interested, and they just get wasted, more belligerent, and more self-absorbed. It's horrendous. It's honestly.
Are you talking about your role as Duff Man?
Yeah, I mean, my role is Duff Man. That's right. When I'm performing my duties as Duff Man. The one point I do like about capitalism, and look,
do you not want to name your capitalist sponsor?
I work for a product. I'm the sole representative for a particular alcohol product, and we're not going to mention the product.
Duff beer.
It's like Duff beer. Oh yeah. And one of the fun parts of the job is I work at festivals. One of the less fun parts of the job is these kids get really high, and I have to be around them, and sometimes even worse. But the worst example I ever got when I was being Duff Man, oh yeah, was when I was at a festival at a party at Sydney University, when I met a Rupert and Riverview style of Sydney Uni college boy group who had their little suits on, and one of them turned to me and went, "Are you getting paid for this?" And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I am." And he's like, "Well, I hope you're getting paid well. How's life turned out for you, mate?" And this is like a little 19-year-old. And I so wanted to just clock him in the head. But you can't do that, of course. You can't do that, otherwise you lose your job. Oh, no. So, yeah, I couldn't do that, unfortunately.
That's what mascots are famous for. The football mascots are constantly smashing. Because, what a cowardly kind of thing to do. Like, he knew that he'd get away with it. He did the math, and he knew that you couldn't do anything because you were like, that sucks. I
actually think he thought he was. I don't think he even thought he was being rude. I think he just was being smug. I don't think he even
was that dumb.
He had his group around him. They're all in suits. I think they come from a law ball. The girls were in like nice dresses, and he was just being. He was playing high status with me and enjoying it. It was just that much of a dick. But my favorite quote with capitalism though is from a film for Michael Keaton, and I wouldn't classify myself as a red. Unfortunately, Johnny, you've been hanging out with a notable red in Chris Honoré, who's of Russian extraction, so you can do the math on that, my friends. But it was from a film called The Founder with Michael Keaton, and there's a wonderful scene where the original, towards the end of the film, where there's the two rather large-boned gentlemen who started McDonald's. They've just signed away all of the McDonald's rights, and he's absolutely shafted them for hardly any money whatsoever. And he says, "Do you want to know the difference between me and you?" And they say, "Sure." Well, he said, "Do you want to know how I did this?" And I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "The difference between me and you is if there's someone drowning, you guys don't have the ability to put a hose in his mouth, do you?" And they're like, "No." And he said, "Well, I do. And that's capitalism for you." So, that's a pretty dark reading of capitalism, but, it's an interesting one. It's basically saying you cannot prosper unless you're willing to step over bodies along the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's grim. It's really grim. It's no way to live, mate.
Yeah, well,
stepping over one another.
As many people have pointed out to me, there's a lot of armchair socialists, and it's very easy for people that have got money to point that out. And that's one of the common critiques of Hollywood, California, and New York, essentially, that there's a lot of armchair socialists. And as the people in the Midwest are saying, it's all very well to espouse from on high, but you've got lots of money.
Well, Dorje, from Hollywood socialism, what an amazing segue to the film. We've actually watched the same film this week, and we're going to do a movie review of a very dark and gloomy but funny movie.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious movie. We're talking about, dear listeners, is The Death of Stalin. It's directed by Armando Iannucci.
Very well done.
Armando Iannucci, I should say. Cast is Steve Buscemi, Simon...
We should say he's behind In the Thick of It and Veep. He's the genius kind of English
and
guy,
Alan Partridge.
Scottish.
Alan Partridge as well was actually his breakout. The Americans, of course, stupidly always just talk about what's involved with them. But no, his breakout was he helped create numerous series of Alan Partridge. And I think, you can really see some evidence of that in this film. Yeah. So you got Steve Buscemi, Simon Russell Beale, Paddy Considine, Rupert Friend, Jason Isaacs, Michael Palin, who I love, and Jeffrey Tambor, controversially.
Yeah.
Banned in Russia.
And what's it called?
It's called The Death of Stalin. Banned in Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, because of the fact that it's taking
Perth.
the piss. It's not banned in Perth.
Like, we don't get it.
It's a satire. It's a political satire. What your thoughts, Jono?
Well, yeah, I loved it. I don't know much about the history. I feel pretty late. Like, I know a lot about German history and obviously American and Australian, but I knew that Stalin was the worst of the bad guys, really, as far as death count. And it's the clues in the title. It's about Stalin dying and then a kind of land grab by his group, and it's very, very funny but dark. They don't kind of gloss over the lists and the purging that was going on all the way through. And there was some real standout performances. I thought it's just so funny. Fear is so funny, and just the way that they all are so scared of Stalin is hilarious. I really liked it how every time he cracked a joke at dinner, they were all just pissing themselves, and then they're obviously tired. And then he said, "Who's going to join me for a cowboy movie, a John Wayne movie?" And then they all have to sit and watch John Wayne movies with him. Very funny. And it was cool as well how they didn't bother doing Russian accents. So you've got a Brooklyn guy in Buscemi, and then a lot of the other guys have English accents. And there's a standout by Marshal Zhukov, but playing Marshal Zhukov, who was kind of the biggest war hero in Russia. He took on the Germans, and that was Jason Isaacs, and he was playing a kind of what accent's that, Dorje? It's almost a Liverpool. It's a bit of a
maybe it was Liverpool. No, you're right. He's born in Liverpool, so it would have been Liverpudlian. Yeah.
He played Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. That guy, Jason Isaacs. He was excellent, and I thought the other real standout was Simon Russell Beale as the real bad guy in it. He's his kind of head torturer, and he's a huge Shakespearean actor. He played Richard III, Iago. He played all those kind of guys. And didn't you think he was terrific, Dorje?
Yeah, I thought he was great. I actually also really liked Rupert Friend as Stalin's son, Vasily. I thought he was pretty hilarious as well. But no, yeah, I did. I thought he was brilliant. Look, the cast is brilliant. I found it extremely funny. I guess it's not so different to the John Clarke political satires that we grew up watching in the sense, or even Yes, Prime Minister. It's really making fun of bureaucracy, I think, to a large extent. It's hilarious, their motions to pass certain issues, and then they're squabbling, they're infighting, the sycophancy between them when they're sucking up, essentially, to Stalin. The Machiavellian type plotting, which was happening, the sense that everyone is watching everyone. I thought it was a brilliant retelling, and it's similar. It took a lot of license with history and facts in a similar way to Tarantino with his
Intolerable Bastards, Inglourious Bastards.
It's similar to not quite as much license, but it took some serious liberties. But overall, I thought it was a standout for me. I'd put it in my top two couple of films of the last 3 or 4 years, personally.
Oh, Yeah, so that's what do you give it out of 10 then?
For me, out of 10, look, it's very much up my alley. So,
Yeah,
I'll precursor it by that. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. If you're a guy that likes explosions and sex, you're not going to enjoy it. If you're a female that likes a strong female character, I suppose, unfortunately, it is very male-dominated. The closest you have is Stalin's daughter, who you find out quite a lot about, and I thought she was very well...
She's excellent.
She's excellent as well.
She's in Bird...
Anyway,
Bird.
it was Andrea Riseborough is her name.
She's British.
And what? Oh, she is. She was in. What are you thinking of? Birdman. She was in Birdman.
Birdman.
Oh yeah,
she was in Birdman.
Who was she in Birdman?
She played one of the crazy actresses in it. She was. She's always good.
She's in Oblivion. Welcome to Punch. Yeah, she was fantastic. Yeah, but I think overall I'd give it a solid 8. I think again I have to give it 8 out of 10. What would you give it?
I give it a 7.5.
Okay,
I think we're on the same. Do you know? So I did find it distracting at first because I'm a huge fan of Jeffrey Tambor, but obviously I watched it before more stuff kicked off, but he was kicked out of the show that he was doing for Amazon for alleged harassment of his assistant, and but a great performance by him as well, and then.
Yes.
Strangely enough, not long after we both saw the film, he was doing press for his Netflix show, and
Arrested Development Series 5.
Yeah, and has got embroiled in more kind of discussions about that sort of thing. He was accused of. Well, he's admitted that he kind of went off on his co-star who plays his wife,
Jessica Walter.
Yeah, for those who don't know the show, it's a hilarious show. I reckon it's such a funny show.
Oh, it'd be in the top 5 comedies of the last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, terrific show, and it quite an awkward encounter between them on the set because she said, "Look, I'm forgiven him here. I have to because we're going to do the show." And she started crying, and then Jason Bateman, who plays their son Michael, who's a big star, kind of interrupted her multiple times and just kind of took over, just trying to kind of play nice, I guess, play nice families. And two of the other male stars in it as well kind of cut her off, and they've all come out and apologised in hindsight. But yeah, it wasn't a good look, and now they've cancelled the rest of publicity in the UK for it.
Yeah, Tony Hale, who plays Buster, he backed him up. Elias Shawcott as well. They've cancelled the entire junket tour in terms of the press in the UK. Something's rotten in the state of Denmark, clearly. Tambor apparently went to a huge tirade with Jessica Walter, and much to her chagrin, and she said it was unacceptable. She'd never experienced anything like it before in her life. And that's on the back, of course, of the issues that he's had with Transparent, where he's been let go from the Amazon show over sexual harassment allegations from a trans member of the team. She was a PA, I believe. So, look, he is definitely under a lot of heat, and it's overshadowed. I knew he was in the film. He has a very big part. He's fantastic. He's hilarious as always in the film. But it really has shone a light on male toxic behaviour. I'm just giggling because of our cupcake joke, but male toxic behaviour.
Shouldn't giggle, mate. Serious.
On male toxic behaviour in the film industry. It follows, of course, most recently Johnny Depp's got in trouble again for his new film City of Lies, where he was drunkenly assaulted a location manager, and that's on the back of course, the allegations of abuse with his ex-wife, Amber Heard. Christian Bale, of course, got in trouble for the Terminator Salvation, one of the more famous cases of someone losing their shit on a film set. I think it's pretty full on. David O. Russell in I Heart Huckabees, who can forget him going absolutely off his head to Lily Tomlin. That's
amazing.
All this stuff, if you Google it, guys, on YouTube, it's all readily available.
Amazing to watch. Do you know he also did it on Three Kings? He apparently George Clooney had to punch him in the face.
Yeah,
Three Kings.
Yeah, I mean, if Clooney's punching in the face, I mean, he's married to the UN, right? you've probably gone overboard pretty clearly. Yeah. It's like the best guy in the world just punched you in the face.
Yeah, but basically it's just genius. It's people like Kanye West kind of thing, trying to think they can get away with anything they want because they're the lead in a show. Yeah.
And one of the quick questions that they're looking at, though, is about the method, about whether actors use method acting as a means to getting away with behaving very badly on set. I think it's tricky terrain. People on set it's very high pressure. So you've got one or two or three takes, maybe 4 or 5, but you've got a cast and crew around you. You've got creative differences, and there are going to be blow ups, but you do have to treat people with respect. And then when you add something like the method to it, which is, as you know, being in character, so even the human being who's making the choices is sometimes not even available to interact with. Daniel Day-Lewis famously supposedly refuses to even answer as his actual name. You have to call him by his character name. So how can you then talk to the actor themselves about the choices they're making if there is no actual choice, supposedly? There's all these sort of problems.
Do you think that'll come out? Do you think that'll come out with Daniel Day-Lewis, with the guy that actually quit that movie because he was scared of it?
There'll be blood. Yeah, I mean, that's
there'll
already...
be blood on your face. and that's amazing that he gave up that amazing movie.
Entire film with his character changed.
My milkshake tastes better than your milkshake.
It's, I think we do let them get away with a lot.
Abandoned my son.
I've seen it in the theatre world even. I've witnessed one female in a play. I did get very upset about another male who would just change blocking. And because he was in the moment. And yeah, there is going to be actors that have very unusual and sometimes, I think, dangerous techniques based upon them supposedly immersing themselves in their character. And I think maybe that's what Bateman was trying to get at. But I do believe there is a line. There's always got to be a line. And if you overstep the line, it's pretty clear. And I also think that it's quite right that men have been able to get away with too much, especially at the top end of the ladder. And I remember even on this production, which shall remain nameless, there was a particular male director who launched into a tirade and towards a crew member saying, "How dare you countermand me," in an extremely loud voice, almost screaming them down. And I just think, unfortunately...
absolute power corrupts. They're just like, we get Stalins in any industry.
That's right. That's a problem.
If enough people are just pandering to them, that they kind of take it away.
Death of Stalin is about the unfortunate stroke which Stalin suffers, an illness, almost terminal illness. And I believe you're sick right now with your stomach, so it's quite apropos. But you also tried to combat, you self-prescribed.
Okay, don't give away the punchline.
Lead us in, my friend.
So my full disclosure this week is I have a bit of a sore tummy, so I've been thinking back to a time when I was living in Bondi, and my sister, shout out to Beck, was with her best mate. They were doing an acupuncture workshop. Bex loves healing people, and they were around the corner in Bondi Junction, staying at an apartments, and I was meant to meet them out for a Thai dinner, but I was feeling a bit sick, and I was living in this place in Bondi, and I always remembered that Beck said to combat sickness, there's this amazing olive leaf extract that you have, and it tastes disgusting. So I wasn't looking forward to it, but I thought, I've got to man up here. It's a bit of a cold night. I'll go out and meet Bex and Lee, get on the bus and meet them. And so I open up the olive leaf extract and I take a good little hit of it. And as soon as it hit the back of my throat, I knew something was terribly wrong. And I gagged straight away and spat it out, but it tasted worse than I even expected. And then looking at and it was hard to open the little cap. I now, in hindsight, realised that.
Wait, so you were sick? What were your symptoms of your sickness? Firstly,
I think I just had a little bit of a cold, a little bit of a flu or something.
Were you coughing? Were you sneezing?
It doesn't matter. I just had a bit of a. Just felt like I was coming down with a cold. Anyway, I look at the bottle, and it doesn't say olive leaf extract. It says eucalyptus oil on the bottle, and then underneath where it says eucalyptus oil, it says highly toxic. And there's a poison hotline on the actual bottle. And right next to that, it says, keep out of the hands of children. So not only did I think I was going to die, I also felt really silly. And I didn't take much of it in, but it was fucking terrible, like what I did take in. And so I called the poison hotline, and the woman on the phone said, look, if you didn't actually drink more than 2 millimeters, you're not going to die. And there's probably no use you going to the hospital. What's going to happen is that once it goes through your system, you're going to get very tired, and you're probably going to fall asleep for a little while, and then you're going to vomit it all up. But don't make yourself vomit now, because it needs to go into your system first, because if you vomit now, it'll burn all your throat on the way up. So I was like, Thank you very much. And then she also did ask how old you were. I said,
One second. So, do you know how you
in my
picked,
30s.
where you got this eucalyptus oil from?
I think it was for a burner, for an oil burner or something like that. Like
So you had a little essential oil burner at home.
I think it was probably my housemate. My housemate, he was more into that sort of stuff.
And where was the olive leaf extract bottle?
Probably, in my bathroom or something. It's just one of those kind of things.
So you just going through it schematically, you reach for a bottle, which you thought was the olive leaf in the bathroom cabinet, let's say, picked up the wrong one, drank it, and then realised things had gone terribly wrong.
Terribly wrong.
Okay.
And so then I sat down. I was a bit depressed about, my life choices. And then, sure enough, I started to feel quite dizzy and lightheaded. And then I actually felt amazing. Like incredible, like the biggest high I've ever had in my life. And it was not for long, but it was probably for about 30 seconds. I thought everything's going to be all right. I feel great. I love my sister. I love my life. Like it was a proper, like, koalas must be on this shit all the time. Like it was a proper amazing, incredible feeling. And then I did fall asleep. And then I woke up probably about 40 minutes later, quite sweaty and smelling of eucalyptus. And still not having vomited, but I decided I'll jump on the bus. And I jump on the bus to Bondi Junction. And as I'm on the bus to Bondi Junction, and for some reason I put a Dryzerbone on. There was a Dryzerbone hanging around. I wasn't thinking clearly, so I looked like a crazy guy on this bus in a Dryzerbone in Bondi. And I had to run off the bus at Bondi Junction because my stomach was just going at that point. And I just ran to the side of the bus terminal in the junction and just started vomiting in the side of the street, just fully. And then I heard Jono and Bex and Lee had left their apartment and actually just bumped into me, like, vomiting in the street.
Your sister and her friend.
And they took me back. Yeah, and they took me back to their place and they were like, what's going on? And it took me probably 40 minutes to admit what I'd done because I was so ashamed. And they were like, oh, you've just got to drink milk. And I was like, no, I spoke to the poison person. I don't have to drink milk. And so Bex called me Yuki Pukey for the next couple of months. And it took 3 days to get the toxins out of my system. And like I would just burp and fart and hiccup eucalyptus. So actually that would be a good cupcake. That would be a less toxic masculine cupcake.
Eucalyptus is quite a nice smell. It's not such a bad thing to be burping and farting.
Well, I didn't like the smell of it for about 2 years after that. It was quite a traumatic experience. So there's my full disclosure, everyone. I hope you enjoyed.
So yeah, you drank a poison. You were high for a bit, and then you were vomiting. And were you ever? When were you most scared that it was going to be the end of your life? Just after you first drank it? Was it around that time? Or
yeah, when it said like incredibly poison, toxic on it.
So that time when you were waiting for the lady to pick up the phone and speaking to her, that would have been the scariest time, I guess. You would have been really sweaty.
That was very scary. But then it all went away and with a high. But the thing is, it was a great high, guys, but I've never gone back to that high. So obviously not worth that high. But it was a great high.
Would you describe it? What would the high? How would you describe? Was it like what sort of drug would it be? Were you hallucinating?
No, it was just ecstasy. It was just like everything's going to be everything's great. It was uplifting. It was like chicane. You know that music, chicane?
Sounds a bit like ayahuasca or something like that. You know what I mean?
You
just took poison in your system and you got really high. Yeah. Next question is:
it was like the opposite of house music, bad house music. It was like good techno music.
Where'd you get the poison number from? Was it on the bottle?
It was on the bottle, I think, or maybe I googled it. I don't think so. I think it was on the bottle. I think that's how toxic it is. But let's move on from me poisoning myself. It's very embarrassing.
It's great. No, well, now we've got, we've had ayahuasca so common across the world. It's not so embarrassing. People do that. People deliberately put poison in the system and vomit stuff up, and then under the guise of finding themselves across the world and pay lots of money to do it now. So what was once an incredibly embarrassing story now just makes you, in some ways, a visionary.
True that.
Speaking of visionaries, I believe we're expecting a call from a particular visionary of the hip-hop scene.
Great.
I don't know if he's going to bring in. One can only hope. We'll just it sounds like our producer Brendan tells me that he is making a call. So look, thanks Brendan. Unfortunately, speaking of all that talk about farting and burping has given me the shits. So I'm going to just run out and take a dump. But let's see what old mate has to say.
Okay, see you, Dorje.
Oh, yes, hello. Yes, hello. I'm looking for I'm looking. Oh, are the boys there?
Oh, is that Rupert?
Yes, it's the visionary. I heard you call me a visionary. I'm very happy. It's Rupert from Riverview.
Yes, I know who it is, Rupert. You're our first multiple caller now. Welcome to the show. Unfortunately, Dorje's having he's doing number twos.
Oh, but he's well. That's not hardly surprising. He suffers from verbal diarrhea all the bloody time, So out both ends now. I can't stand the guy. He's always having me a go at us. You can tell he's not from money. Not like you, Jono. I mean, you're an MCC member, aren't you?
I am. That's true.
Yeah. What's all this talk about socialism? Actually, what are you talking about that stuff for? I mean, you went to Melbourne Grammar, didn't you?
Don't out me in front of. I did, but I've got socialist leanings. What school did you go to again?
I went to Riverview. I've told you many times. I'm Rupert from Riverview. How many times do I need to explain this to you?
So you don't have any socialist leanings?
Socialism? No, it's ridiculous. No, well, the great thing about the capitalism is the money comes down to everyone. Look at Africa. World poverty is at an all-time low. So why the hell would you try and say something like, "Oh, socialism's the way forward"? You know what socialism's the way to? Socialism's look at what happens in China. China's embracing capitalism, and look what's happening to them. They get better. Things get better for the poor if you try to make money. Because look at Bill Gates. I mean, look, we help them out. You can do it. You can do it as a way of avoiding tax, giving money to the poor. And
a lot of them don't do it. A lot of them don't. Didn't the Amazon guy pretty much said he's not going to do any of it?
Well, not everyone is going to, but the fact is, if people get richer, the world gets richer. So,
Rupert, what can we do for you? Why are you calling?
Well, I mean, firstly, I want to tell you, don't ever talk about socialism again. You really give me the shits, and it really annoys me. Don't ever do it again, or I will come to where you are. You're in Carlton, aren't you? You're on
whoa!
You're in Carlton on Lycon Street, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, look at how dare you armchair socialist. You went to Melbourne Grammar. All right, you're a MCC member. You're from money. How dare you go against your type? Don't make me go over there, and I'll have strong words with you. And I heard you like my WAP. I heard you like my WAP music. Is that correct?
I do. I like your rap music a lot. Your last track was great. Are you working on anything else?
I've got a whole album. I've got more. I'm like Kanye. I've got a whole album.
Speaking of Rupert, have you heard Pusha T's got a new album out that Kanye produced every track on? Have you listened to it yet?
Yeah, I've listened. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's fire. It's fire. He has a go at Drake for not writing his own raps.
Well, Drake to me is an imposter. He's an imposter. But the world loves an imposter, don't they? I mean, look at Dorje. That's an imposter. he's got a podcast and he's talking like he knows what he's talking about, but he's just spewing shit.
And what did you, Rupert? What did you make of because Kanye's getting a lot of criticism again for the cover of the album. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What's her name? The singer?
Yeah, she's very good though, isn't she? I think she's wonderful.
He used a picture of Whitney Houston's bathroom with all the drug paraphernalia as the cover, which people just don't understand why he did that.
What a wonderful comment on American society. Why is it okay? Why is it okay for Childish Gambino to come out and do all these comments on American society, but Kanye can't? Why? Because is Childish more of a visionary? No, Childish isn't a visionary. He's not a visionary at all. There's only one visionary, and that is Kanye West. And what?
It's so confusing for me because I don't agree with anything you say, except I do love Kanye. But let's get off hip hop because no one's going to want to hear Kanye getting defended at the moment. Anything else you're calling for?
Oh, I'm sorry if I'm not fashionable enough for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jono. I'm sorry if I'm out of step with the rest of the world. No, I must apologize. I better get down on my hands and knees and grovel for a little bit. That's what you want me to do, grovel, don't you? I'm not going to grovel. Anyway, moving right along. Speaking of groveling, there was a royal wedding quite recently, wasn't there?
That's what. Yeah. Were you there? Did you get an invite? Where'd you watch it?
I didn't get an invite, but I watched it with my friends in Double Bay. We had a little royal party, and everyone bought a dish. And actually, my friend, who was on quite a famous reality show
cooked for everybody, and it was a wonderful occasion. All the ladies were there, and I was there. A few of my friends went to the football, actually. The Sydney Swans were playing, but I didn't do that because they were playing Fremantle, and that is a rubbish team. Never have I seen a more rubbish team than the Fremantle Dockers. And if you're a fan, like some... we
don't want to hear you, we don't want to hear what you think of sport.
Sorry,
I think you're probably a royalist.
Yeah, no,
so
good point. I'm with you. So, the wonderful, wonderful wedding. And now, Howie, to me, Howie, he symbolizes what is right with the world. It's okay if you've got red hair. It's okay if you're not the first in line to the throne. You're not even
Charles's son.
Hello? Necessary, and that is scandalous gossip, and we don't gossip where I'm from. Discretion is the better part of valor, and it's important that you stay true to each other, and you toe the line. And if you're out of line, you will get rid of you. So you better watch yours. I'll come to Carlton and have words with you. Okay, all right.
Okay,
so anyway. So moving right along. At the wedding itself, I thought there were some real standouts, and I'm going to go through them with you because
right.
I think it's important that we really think about what happened here. Now, I'm going to skip straight to the bones of the matter, the main course, and I think everyone's.
Wish you would. Yep.
Yes, well, everyone's talking. You're very long-winded yourself, okay? So I would not be throwing stones if I was you. This podcast should be a maximum of 30 minutes. It goes way too long, and you're the primary offender. All right, so put a sock in it. You blue blood, you armchair fucking socialist. Right, so moving along. Sorry, Mr. Cowie. Now, Michael Cowie was he was the Reverend Bishop. The Reverend Bishop Michael Cowie was he was the black man. He was a black man who was speaking at the wedding. Now, look, he said, let me just go through the basics, all right? So it's a wedding, okay? So it's supposed to be refined, okay? There's supposed to be, everything is supposed to be done in the right way. And there was a lot of, Elton John was there,
George Clooney was there?
Yeah. All these luminaries, and it was going so very, very well. I mean, everything was coming together. There was, 600 people assembled, and it was, the issue. Now, in my mind, there's a word that he used which is overused, and it's quite simple, really. It's the word love. Now, he used the word love 58 times. He said love 58 times. Now, surely, if anyone should be saying love, it should be the bride, and the groom. It's the bride and the groom's territory to be saying anything to do with love, not this ridiculous, trumped-up reverend who's just having a field day waxing lyrical. I just thought it was a devaluing of the word. I'm all about language. And like Kanye,
as a rapper,
I consider myself a wordsmith in many ways, and I just thought this reverend, he wasn't quite on the money. But overall,
was he irreverent?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, he was. Yeah.
Irreverent reverend.
Look, but apparently the bride's mother, Dorje Wagland, really was quite moved by it. I suppose if you're going to have that sort of thing, now we've got all this mixing of races, and that's what's happened. I mean, she did look lovely in the white on the very dark skin. It looks nice, I suppose. But what do you think about interracial marriages?
Fine with it. Totally fine with it.
Well,
Dorje's interracial.
I heard you have a white girlfriend.
Honey Baby's white. Yes, she's as white as it gets, but that doesn't...
Not exactly a card-carrying member then, are you? Hey, white, vanilla face.
Who's your partner? Who Are you in a partnership at the moment?
Ladies, I am on the market. So
I'm excited.
If you're looking for a bit of Rupert loving, a bit of Rupert.
Sounds a bit racist. Sounds a bit racist. This review. I was hoping that you'd talk more about the kind of scurrilous nature of a dad and all that kind of stuff. But if you're just gonna. What is racist is not talking about it. Interracial. Interracial is a new thing. I mean, I can tell you. Thing. Where I grew up,
everyone was white except for the Asian students, but there wasn't really much, else going on. I think it's becoming more. I suppose you could say this wedding is symptomatic or symbolic of a worldwide movement, and that's what some people are saying. In about 20, 30 years, everyone's going to be sort of like a mixed sort of, sort of color. Everyone's going to be different, sort of like a toffee sort of, like something like that, or a brown, or even a murky sort of orangey sort of little mixy, like a mix of everything. So it's not even clear where you're from. It's just like a little mongrel. Everyone will be mongrels. What do you think about that?
Don't really have a problem with it. Don't really have a problem at all. I was more interested in.
Birdie told me you have a white girlfriend.
You already said that.
A little birdie had a word in my ear and said, you are sticking to your own kind. So I don't think you should be saying much about it at all.
Why don't you write a rap about it? It would be great. At some stage,
done.
Yeah.
I'll put together for the next podcast. I'll put together something about interracial. But
maybe not the next podcast. I don't think you can be on 3 podcasts before we've had another multiple. We might.
Well, the funny thing is,
we'll call you, Rupert.
You've been on 10 podcasts now, mate. So I wouldn't be talking
10,
to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, look, it was a wonderful event. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. You could bring a dish, a bit like a really classy Eurovision, or even a bit. You know what? It's a bit like a bachelor or something like that. All this married at first sight. This is a real royal wedding. And I just think I'm a staunch monarchist, and thanks to the monarchy and thanks to England, we exist here in Australia. We have a lot to be thankful for. And the Commonwealth Games, where we beat all those trumped-up little pissy nations all around the world. It's fantastic.
Okay.
So, thanks to the monarchy, thanks to England. Let's not forget where we came from. Let's not forget that Union Jack on our flag, because without that Union Jack, we wouldn't be where we are, and all the best things in the society come from there. Thank you, Harry, and thank you, Meghan, and maybe we're all going to end up brown and coloured in the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rupert.
All right. See you later. Enjoy that white girlfriend of yours.
Well, yeah, I do. Bye. Whoa. Jeez.
So apparently I missed a bit of an interesting tirade from our friend.
You might have heard him. Yeah. He's toxic, that bloke. Talk about toxic masculinity.
Well,
So
some people argue he's representative of the majority of Australian society. You beg to differ?
No, he's the elite, isn't he? He's like a very small amount, but yeah,
I know, mate. You'd know.
Holding a lot of the money.
You grew up with it, after all, not me. Finishing up, speaking of elite, I'll give you a chance, Jono, to unveil, because we did miss out last week. Thankfully, we were a bit short for time, but I'll give it to us with real passion and zealotry. Even speaking of heat, your whinge for the week from Belligerent Burns.
Shh. If you want to talk in a movie,
this is taking too long.
This is taking too long.
No!
This is terrible manners. Terrible
That's not
manners.
funny.
It's not
funny.
funny.
Bad anymore.
It's Belligerent Burns with It's an Outrage.
Wonderful week in Melbourne. Obviously, I've been doing lots of cultural stuff, and Bex got us free tickets to Iron and Wine at the Melbourne Recital Centre, which is an incredible venue for live music if you get a chance. It's mostly for classical music, so the acoustics are par excellence. So we go there. I don't really know Iron and Wine that well. I've tried to listen a few times over the years to his stuff. Honeybabe's a huge fan, so she was very excited. It felt like everyone was very excited. It feels like if you like that type of music, you really like Iron and Wine. And so I was there. He was doing a 6:30 show and a 9:30 show. So a bit of a cash grab, two separate concerts in one night. He got out there. He's a real hipster-looking guy, huge beard, big band, very professional, and voice of an angel, but just not really. I'm not my cup of tea. I'm more into hip hop or into more lyrical-based kind of stuff. He seems to be talking about the weather a lot and a lot of poetry kind of things. But then he started having a go at the audience about how quiet we were being, and really kind of saying, "Hey, Melbourne, you seem really comfortable," and stuff like that. And I was about 4 rows back. I had great seats 4 rows away from him, and he just kept digging between each song. Geez, okay, Melbourne. Well, I'm sure you're having a good time. I can't hear it, but no, good. over and over again. And I was quite enjoying it at this point because I was like, I wasn't really liking the music anyway. So if there could be some awkwardness, that'd be fine for me. And then he fucking drops in, doesn't really matter to me, Melbourne. You know, I'm saving myself for the 9:30 show anyway. Only joking. I'm not, though. I was like, fucking hell. Like, this is... And you could feel like the Honey Babe was feeling awkward because she was loving it, but like kept getting kind of reprimanded by him. And you could feel the whole crowd. Like, they were like, we love you. It's like, oh, thank you. That means a lot. He wasn't a dick about it. I think it was coming from insecurity. And about halfway through the show, he kind of stopped making digs. But my point is, what does he expect? Like, what does he expect? It's bedwetting music at the best. Like, it's not the type of music where you go, whoa, take his shirt off and yell around. He's not AC/DC or fucking, DMX or something like that. Like, he's singing really quiet, depressing songs. And it's at the recital centre where everyone does feel like it's a place to be respectful anyway. So that's my rant of the week.
Was it Pivot that you saw where the guy started abusing the crowd and told them to arc up, cunts, or whatever it was? That
was great. No, that was that was at Woodford. That was awesome.
What happened again?
The singer like looked at the crowd, and that was a bit of a rock and roll, like, you know, with big musician, like loud gig, and he was like, he looked at the crowd, and he goes, arc up, cunts.
Whoa. And the whole band were like, dude, no, not cool, right?
Yeah,
they were like,
I know the band. Yeah, I knew the band. I can't remember what they were called. They were something Train. They weren't Pivot. No, they were something like the Groove Train or something like that. No, they were a pretty good band. He was a loose unit. I love it when that's the X factor of live music, because there's no script. So you can get people with beautiful voices like Mark Kozelek from that Red House Painters that are just poisonous. They just fucking go off in the crowd. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think the moral of the story, as you're saying, Jono, is once you start going in at the crowd, you're probably not going to win. Like, there's no way they're going to suddenly respond and go, oh, thanks very much for the dressing down. I guess I'll come with you now. Like, it just doesn't work. With a
that's what
comedian...
hip-hop does, though. That's what hip-hop does. I hate that about hip-hop. About it. Make some noise! Now scream!
Oh, yeah.
The hype-up guy.
That's a positive thing. They're not saying, you haven't been making any noise. You know, they haven't been going, you haven't been doing well enough. We need more from you. Oh, thanks for nothing, you guys. They don't go neg.
No, that's what the hype... That's what the hype man does. Yeah, he's like, we can't hear you.
Yeah,
and
but that's positive.
The crowd off against
I can't hear you. You see what I mean? Like, I think it's a positive thing. Whereas if you're not going, I can't hear you. Is that the best? They're not getting the tone. I think you can hear it in the tone. To me, they're very different. I don't think
he's not hip-hop. He's just like a whinger. His name's Iron and Wine. Like, fucking hell. He was just whining.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if he was there with a shirt, ironing with a shirt and just whining at us. And he barely had a sip of his glass of wine, his ceremonial glass of wine. No, he was very annoying.
Although,
but it was good music.
With comedians, I quite like it when they go at you. Like, that's quite enjoyable sometimes, a lot of the time.
That's your personality. You like to be punished.
Anyway, speaking of punishment, we'll stop punishing you now. We'll stop throwing a rod across your backs, listeners. Thanks so much for episode 10. We are over 500 listens, so thanks to all our supporters across this.
Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for just listening to us and not multitasking. And for those of you that are multitasking, just sit down and listen. Just do one thing at a time.
Okay, didn't we just say don't go at our audience? Wasn't the whole premise?
Are you watching Netflix while you're listening to this?
We can see you. We can see what you're doing. No, we can't. But look, thanks so much again, listeners. Jono, I'll leave you to take us out from episode 10, a real milestone. Take us out, Jono Burns from Ep 10 of Full Disclosure.
Thanks if you've been here since the first ep, or even if you're just listening now. We've done 10 eps. I think we're getting better at it. We're getting more structure. We've had our first reoccurring guest, Rupert from Riverview, and I think pretty soon we're going to talk more about music. That might be coming up. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
See you later, mate.
Yeah. Coming to you every week from Sydney and Melbourne. It's Full Disclosure, the Jono and Dorje podcast. Jono and Dorje, full disclosure in the raw. Jono and Dorje, full disclosure, no holds barred. No.